welcome to the Modern Assyrian program on AGN TV. My name is Carmen Morad. I am so pleased to have today on our program a very special guest, the Chief of the Police Department for the City of Modesto, Chief Brandon Gillespie. Welcome to the program, Chief.
Thank you for having me. It's a big pleasure to be here.
Well, I am so honored. I know you're very busy, and for you to make time to be on our program means a lot to us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. You know, the last time we spoke, Chief, it was at a community convening a community event in Modesto, a very diverse community. And I had the pleasure of having some time to speak with you to share some of your vision that you have for our city and to make sure that um, there is more engagement, to make sure that more people have an opportunity to meet you and to learn about law enforcement. You were assistant chief, and then you became interim chief, and in 2021 you became our official chief of the police department. Please share with us what your vision is for the city of Modesto when it comes to law enforcement and police department.
No, thank you for asking that question. And I think to answer that, I really just want to put it in context that this is the city I grew up in. Modesto is where I went to elementary school. It's where I went to junior high and high school, and where I'm currently raising my family, my three kids. I'm married with my wife, and it's a city I care deeply about, and I want to see better in every aspect. So I've been honored to be able to be selected to lead this department as the police chief. And for the police department, my vision is for us to do what we do in law enforcement, which is drive down the crime rate so our residents can feel safe in every aspect, no matter where you live in the city, but to also improve the quality of life for everybody. Because when people feel safe, they're more apt to get out and be involved and do things and enjoy our community. So it improves everybody's quality of life. And so those are kind of the overarching goals that I have. We do have three main goals, which are reducing crime and fear of crime in the city of Modesto, increasing our community engagement with our community, and then improving organizational excellence, making our department always improving. And so I think all of those three things together is what not only makes our police department better, but makes us better as a community.
That's awesome when you talked about the excellence part, because we all know when it comes to engaging with our police department, it's really not always a pleasant experience. Because this is what I remember from Sheriff Dirksey telling me. Usually, someone has been a victim of a crime, or unfortunately, they are allegedly the perpetrator. So it's not always a positive experience when someone comes in contact with law enforcement. But I want to refresh your memory on when we were at that community event, Chief. The way you were engaging with community members, the way you were talking to the kids, and mind you, these are refugee children, these were immigrant kids, what we call unserved and underserved members of our community. And most likely, I want to say you were probably the first a person of authority in a uniform that they have come in contact with. And you were engaging with them where they had access to you. These kids were asking questions and you were answering. And that was one way that you bridged the gap of what you said, fear of policing. You've been in law enforcement many, many years. There is a time frame when we say prior to George Floyd and then after George Floyd. There is so much conversations about social justice. But before we get to that, Chief, let me talk to you about the homelessness, the unhoused, as we call them in Modesto. The numbers are growing, they are visible. There are millions of dollars that are being allocated through different agencies and nonprofits and even, faith based organizations. What is the city of Modesto doing to making sure that A, this problem does not increase and continue to really take over the conversation? And how do you respond to people, let's say in downtown Modesto, that they see these individuals? And now I see it more into the residential communities. What is the city of Modesto doing to combat the homelessness?
Yeah, a very good question, to a very complex problem, right? It's not just the city of Modesto, it's every city across the United States that is dealing with this very complex issue. But what I'm very proud of what the city of Modesto is doing to help combat that and end homelessness as best we can. First and foremost, providing places for people to go, shelter services is important, and not just shelter services, but housing. We all know we live in California, one of the highest places to live in the United States. And so we know that the affordability of housing is a real issue that people combat and causes some people to become homeless because they can't afford the high rents. So the city is working tirelessly to create transitional housing opportunities for people, permanent supportive housing for people. And there's several projects that the city has been engaged in, and completed. There's many projects that the city of Modesto is currently involved with. We are also involved with the Salvation Army in the emergency shelter piece. So we're making sure that we ensure that there is shelter beds available for people to go, number one. And number two, we've created what we call the Community Health and Assistance Team, or our chat team, because we believe that, again, relationship building, whether it's police officers in our community, the homeless, and outreach workers, a lot of that is based on trust. And so we created our chat program because we believe if you have a chat with people, that's how you develop trust. And we have outreach workers that are out constantly engaging with our homeless population and trying to get them to accept the services that are available. There are drug treatment programs. There's mental health services that are often barriers of why people are experiencing homeless. Not always, but sometimes. And so we have our chat team, 6 current full-time outreach workers. We're actually going to be hiring 12 total, in the process of increasing that number. We have park rangers that are out patrolling our parks and making sure that they're doing education, outreach, and enforcement of our laws that govern our parks. And so it's really a delicate balance in making sure that we're providing the opportunities for people to get assistance if they're experiencing issues, making sure that we give them every opportunity to accept the available shelter that is available. We check that shelter count on a daily basis. And our shelters are very full, but every night is available shelter for people to take advantage of. And then if we have to, then there's an enforcement or accountability component for those that refuse any services, and sometimes having taken enforcement action where we can get them into court-ordered treatment or court-ordered services. Sometimes that is the pathway that people are pushed into a little more forcefully into getting services. So I think when you look at the city of Modesto and you look at a lot of cities up and down the Central Valley and the homeless issues that are causing problems and reducing the quality of life for the residents, we definitely have lots of improvements to make. But when you look at us compared to a lot of Central Valley cities, I think we're doing quite well.
Thank you, Chief. You mentioned mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And even though every month should be Mental Health Awareness Month, we at the Assyrian Wellness Collaborative, in partnership with Stanislaus County Behavioral Health Recovery Services and Prevention and Early Intervention, PEI, what we do, Chief, is we raise awareness on the importance of well-being and mental health. But what we do is we make sure there's cultural competency as consultants. We provide that to our, for example, social services agencies, school districts, and I'm hoping, and I do believe law enforcement and the Modesto Police Department also has some relationship with different diverse communities. As I mentioned earlier, when I saw you engaging with the little kids in their cultural attire, for example, some of them are from war-torn countries. Some of them do not trust authority and law enforcement. So when you pull someone over, for example, someone from the Modesto Police Department pulls someone over who perhaps doesn't speak English very well, or, like I mentioned with the different ways of culturally, uh, when people are raised a certain way, how they have access to services is also impacted. So, how do you, as the chief of the police department of the seat of our county, um, combat mental health? Because when you mentioned with the homelessness, a majority of the issues are either substance abuse or mental health, or a combination of the both. So, is there any special attention paid to mental health clinicians or any training for your officers?
Yeah, very good points that you made, and very good questions. Mental health is a real thing, right? And it seems to be growing. And just like you said, well over the data that I've seen is well over 50% of those experiencing homelessness are experiencing some type of either mental health and or substance abuse issue. And then you just talk about the general populace in general, and the rates of mental health issues are seem to be increasing quite rapidly. So it's important that our officers have the tools that they need, that we're trained to be able to recognize mental health issues, to de-escalate, to use the tools available. So our officers do go over. We have a contract with BHRS where we collaborate, and we have them come on and put on a 40-hour crisis intervention training course, so CIT course, and we have a contract with them to train 80 of our personnel in the next 2 years, and with the goal of having everybody in our department full time, whether sworn or non-sworn, to go through our CIT training, to be able to have more tools in their toolbox as far as recognizing mental health issues, dealing with mental health issues, and de-escalating these situations better. The last thing any police officer wants to do is have to use force or have a tragic or difficult outcome with somebody experiencing a mental health crisis. One of the things that I'm proud of that we were able to bring back this past year was our MCERT program. It was the Mobile Crisis Response Team, and that is where we have a clinician that rides out with one of our police officers in a co-response model. So if we have dispatched calls that have someone experience a mental health crisis, we send that car with that mental health clinician and that officer to the scene to be able to use the expertise of that clinician to help evaluate and provide even a better expertise than our officers on outcomes and suggestions and treatment for individuals. So we actually have ongoing funding for 2 mental health clinicians to be part of this program. But as I'm sure you're aware, we need more mental health clinicians in California and in this county. And so we currently have only one of those positions filled, but with the goal of having 2 full-time clinicians right out with our officers to provide that service.
That's good news. That's good to hear that it is being addressed. You're absolutely right, Chief. There is a shortage of mental health clinicians. It was recently on the news as well that even Stanislaus County is taking measures to make sure that there are more professionals, whether licensed or unlicensed, but trained to make sure that people have access to care. There's so much stigma with mental health. Being with MHSA, I represent the Assyrian community on a state level. And when we have our meetings, when we talk about the stigma, and stigma reduction is one of the things that we work with to make sure that people in the community um, are not afraid to talk about how they feel rather than self medicate. So, bridging that gap and reducing stigma and talking to, for example, our law enforcement about mental health really being something that we can address. Just like when there's a physical issue that we go see a doctor, when we experience some of the symptoms of, let's say, anxiety and depression, or when we see someone that we love and care about, a coworker, a member of the family, or a neighbor that experiencing is these symptoms, that their quality of life is has changed, the way they interact with others, and how, in fact, when you mentioned BHRS, Chief, there is a training called the Mental Health First Aid Training, and it is such an eye opener to have more understanding, to be able to listen. We don't want to go out and diagnose people, but to be able to hear someone when they're having an issue, and most importantly, Chief, to be able to link and refer people to services on a timely manner.
Yep.
So, with all of that being said, I would like to ask you in closing, Chief, what is it that you want our viewers, residents of the city of Modesto, to give back to the community and contribute? I'm sure most of the people usually come and complain about something that they see wrong, but I, for example, started 20 years ago as a volunteer with the
Mhm.
Modesto Police Department. I
Mhm.
wanted to give back to my community, and I learned more from my training. Uh, and I learned skills and tools that I still, use today. What advice do you have for our viewers and for the residents of the city of Modesto that they could do to make sure that their city is the best city that they could live in?
First and foremost, the general answer I want to get is get involved. Get involved and know your community, know your neighbors, know your police department. One of the goals that I have, which goes along with one of our overarching goals of community engagement, is to get to know our community. The event that you were talking about, those are opportunities not just for me, but members of our department to go to these events to get to know our community better. And especially, like you mentioned this, we have refugees, we have segments of our community that are less trusting of law enforcement because of experiences that they've had, whether in refugees and dealing with law enforcement in other countries. Um, these are perceptions that we want to overcome because I can tell you that I am so confident if when our community gets to know our police officers, they become less fearful. They become more trusting. They understand that it's not what you see on social media or the news or in the movies. That we are just regular people like anybody else and want to get to know people. And so I encourage our officers. It's intimidating for anybody to see us in a uniform, and our community is not going to be typically the first person to say hi. We need to say hi. We need to be the outgoing people so that when they get the green light or they feel like, oh, wow, the officer just waved at me, that means I can engage. They will. And just like the event we were at, it was amazing to see these kids come up and want to ask a million questions and want to see all my gear and ask for stickers and have fun. And that is what we need to do as a community, because when we feel that we're together, that we're on the same page, that we have a relationship, that we're trusting of each other, we feel better about our community. We take pride in our community. And so I would ask our community just getting involved in anything. It doesn't have to be with the police department, but there's Love Modesto. Every community is having, Love Turlock, whatever it may be. Get involved in that. Ask if you're having an event and we can attend just to hand out stickers or engage with you. Invite us. We will send people. I promise you. And then as we, like you mentioned, COVID messed up a lot of things, but we want to start having citizens academies to bring people back so they can get an insight. Our community can get an insight on what the police department does. So I would say look for those opportunities to volunteer and come be part of things that we put on, because that is what it's going to take. People, like I'm sure, like you said, when you started volunteering, there's so much that probably you had thoughts of what the police department was like, and then once you kind of the veil was pulled back, so to speak, and you were to see other things, you probably had a very different perspective. Come on a ride along. If you want to go on a ride along, contact our police department. We'll get you to go on a ride along so you can actually really see and sit in the front seat of what our police officers do. But get involved. I could not be more proud of our city, our community. It continues to get better every year, and it's because of the people that we have here. The police department plays a role, but our community in general, the people, we have less and less people that are growing up here and then moving out to other places. We have so many people, bright, smart people that are staying in our city to invest and make it a better place to be. That's what excites me. So get involved, stay here, love this community, and reach out if we can be part of anything. That's what I would ask.
Oh, amen to that. Chief, you mentioned the Citizens Academy. Both my sons, when they were very young and attended Modesto Christian, they both went to the Citizens Academy, and what an experience it was. Um,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and they have really good memories of what they learned, how they experienced it, the different conversations, the education they got about drugs, opioid gangs, and all of that. You know, these are things that you want your kids to learn from the appropriate source and not just social media and someone who has a different agenda in mind. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Chief, I want to close by thanking you for your service, for serving, for keeping us safe, and continuing to improve our city. Because I do know you have a vision. You are from Modesto, you grew up here, and you really want others to have that community ownership. And
Yep.
that means getting involved and engaged and love your city rather than just complain about it, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to have me on here because spreading the word, having the conversations, getting the knowledge of what people can do. And I think the last plug I would say is, we're always doing this for the next generation behind us, right? That is coming up.
Yes.
So we have an Explorer program that if you're 14 years of age to 21, I believe, you can be part of our Explorer program. We have a cadet program for kids going through college. But those are things that if people just think they might be interested in law enforcement, contact us. I'll put you in contact with the appropriate people. But explorers, these are high school typically age kids that come through and can go on ride-alongs and just enjoy and get to know our police department. So we're always looking to get our youth involved with law enforcement as well because we want to represent and reflect our community. And one thing that we're working on as a police department is to make sure that our demographics look like our community. And so we got work to do. But if you have youth, if there's youth are interested in being part, we have a place for here at the Modesto Police Department.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I want to let you know that here at the Syrian Global Network, we are always here as a platform to serve our community. So if there's anything that you would like from the police department for us to be able to broadcast, to share, I know there's been different scam reports that have been going on or different things that you want the community to know. We're always here to partner along with you to make sure that our community is not only informed so they can make informed decisions, but also we're here in a way to share information, to see where they can go, what they can do, how they can file reports online. So we will have the link to the Modesto Police Department within this program, Chief.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And I just can't thank you enough for helping spread the word and help making our community a better.
Thank you, Chief Brandon Gillespie, for joining me today. This concludes my conversation with the Chief of Police of Modesto. I'll see you on the next Modern Assyrian.